So how do we know the difference between being an avoidant and avoiding things versus detachment, which is actually necessary? I want to talk about what it really means to be aligned. Like, what is alignment? It's God giving you things when you get to the point where you're ready to receive them. We are halfway through the third quarter of the year. That means we're in the final half of the year. When you look back to January and maybe where your mindset was at, what environment you were in, the mental environment that you were in compared to now, how much has your life changed? How much do you feel like you've remained the same and static? And what do you think you need to do moving forward? What have you learned, and what evidence have you built from January until now that shows you you're on the right path? So just jumping right into this avoidance versus detachment, I feel like especially on social media, something that is often talked about is this avoidant attachment style. It's glamorized. I relate personally to these avoidant TikToks about enjoying your solitude and being alone and knowing when to leave situations and knowing when to stand on business and never go back to a situation. But a lot of these things, they are in the bounds of detachment. I would classify one extreme difference between avoidance versus detachment is that avoidance means to actually not work through your emotions. It means to avoid your emotions and to therefore not understand and not have clarity. You're not going to understand what you're going through. You're not going to understand your past. And then you won't have clarity in the present and to move forward in your future. And so you're kind of just going to be stuck. You're going to be kind of pushing down your potential due to that suppression that is caused by your avoidance, right? Versus detachment. Before you even get to the point of detachment, you have to work through your emotions. You have to understand them, or at least make an effort towards understanding your emotions. Because, at the end of the day, there's some things that we actually just can't, like our human abilities cannot comprehend. And that's where the detachment is also going to come into play. But before detachment even starts, you have to do the opposite of suppress, which is going to be to work through, to understand, to do the hard work, to journal, to have vulnerable, hard, anxious, uncomfortable conversations. You have to put yourself through the uncomfortable, because avoidance is just avoiding discomfort, whereas detachment is putting yourself in an uncomfortable position because you know that's going to benefit you in the long run. So that's why, social media can just become so consuming and so toxic. And when you're hearing all of these different buzzwords like avoidant, anxious, all of these different words surrounding mindset and mental health, you actually have to take them with a grain of salt and truly understand what you're identifying as. And also, you don't want to identify as all these different terms that you're hearing, this psychobabble from TikTok, okay? Because what you believe of yourself is what is going to create what is going to be physically manifested in your reality. What you believe, what you think is going to be physically manifested in your reality. So, for example, if you're hopping on this trend of being an avoidant, even if you are an avoidant, okay, you don't want to step into that identity. You don't want to hold that identity. You want to actually surpass that avoidance, right? That attachment style that is holding you back. Because at the end of the day, whether it's anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, disorganized attachment, these are all different attachment styles, and you can do some further research on them. The foundation of them is built in childhood, but they can change throughout your life, throughout experiences. Whatever your attachment style is basically how you react to the world, and it's how you react to maybe emotional connections, how you deal with things. And so, for example, like just a brief overview, an anxious attachment could show up as clinginess, an avoidant attachment could show up as ghosting. So you just have to really understand what these psychological terms actually mean. But if you don't have a secure attachment style, which is the most healthy, you don't want to identify as an anxious attachment or as an avoidant or as a disorganized. You want to do better for yourself. You want to heal your inner child and heal your attachment style to become more secure. That is ideally what you want to do. So this is just your sign to not identify with things that social media is putting out there. And instead, of course, we need to accept who we are. We have to accept that maybe we don't handle things so graciously as we would like to. But once you accept, then you have to take the actionable steps to change, right? So I'm not saying you just pretend you don't have this unhealthy attachment. I'm saying you recognize that you have it, but you don't want to continue to act in that identity of that attachment style. This really goes for anything in terms of your identity and your self-concept. Your self-concept is who you believe yourself to be. It's your internal kind of perception of yourself. And so whatever identity and labels you're giving yourself, your mind is going to believe that's you. And then your physical reality is going to match that. Genuinely, everything is relative to perception. The way that you perceive the world is how you're going to live it. Sometimes, it can be hard to believe that something you can't see isn't real. For example, the power of your energy, the power of your frequency, the power of God. And what you believe of something is how it's going to show up in your life. And I was talking about this before. I was in this kind of mode of just complaining back and forth with my friend. And yes, we had very valid reasons to feel like we were put in negative circumstances and that we were facing injustices in certain relationships in our lives. But because that was our focus and our thoughts were completely going to that negative perception of our life, for me at least, I wasn't really attracting anything anymore. I wasn't attracting any positivity. I wasn't attracting any abundance or new experiences. And then within literally one day, I clocked it because I was journaling and I realized I'm not being grateful. I am not practicing gratitude. And if I compare it to different points in my life, I'm actually living in so many answered prayers. And so how come I'm still in this bubble of negativity and complaining about my circumstances when a year ago I would have been so happy to be in the place that I am now? And it's kind of like you're taking advantage. But anyways, let me not ramble on. So as soon as I stopped complaining and I just softened my heart a bit, I took all that negativity off my chest and I was just like, you know what? I'm grateful. I have these relationships. I have these things in my life, and I'm not going to focus on the lack or on the tension. I'm going to focus on what I do have and what I can be grateful for. Guys, that same week, opportunities started flowing right into my hands. I didn't do anything. And experiences came into my life with so much ease. I didn't have to plan anything. These experiences were just coming to me, and they weren't things that I was forcing or manipulating to happen. The experiences literally just fell into my lap, and I was like, subhanallah, that is God's work. He is literally answering my prayers, and he is reaffirming what he says, which is that if you are grateful, I will give you more. And I was just like, wow, right in front of my eyes, this is happening. And this reminds me of another concept in Islam that we believe, which is that you have to have, one, is trust in God, and two, you have to believe that your creator, God, can give you everything that you want, because he is the most powerful. He is the most merciful. He holds all of the power in the universe and beyond. And so if you believe that of him, then what you're asking for is literally a speck of dust on this earth, and it can happen like that. And so what you believe is going to happen for you. The same way that once I shifted my focus onto the abundance in my life, and then abundance came to me, if you focus on what you want, then it will flow to you. We're not going to apply this to a person, okay? If you focus on a person that you want, that's a no-no. You have to be detached when it comes to those things. But I'm talking about goals, maybe with your family, your career, experiences that you want, the person that you are. I think it's more internal. What you want for yourself, for your self-concept, for your identity, for your lifestyle, for your experiences. Those are things that you can focus on and attract. But I don't want to give the wrong idea here where it's like if you focus on a person, you're going to get that person, because no, don't be obsessive about a person. That's where detachment needs to come in, but maybe that's a conversation for another episode. Really, just to simplify it, if you focus on the abundance in your life, and when I say abundance, I mean the blessings, I mean the positive things, then more abundance and blessings will come into your life. And on the flip side, if you are focused on the negative things in your life and the negative parts of your relationships with people, whether it be your family or your friends, and on how you're not doing good enough, then you're just going to continue to attract those negative things and that negative experience. That's the lens that you're going to have. This also reminds me of a concept that I learned in psychology. So basically, if you have a bias, which is maybe something you've learned throughout your life, and now you perceive life through that lens. For example, you're wearing these glasses that it's kind of like a tunnel vision that only perceives things through one perspective. Then you're only going to see things, you're only going to see your whole life and all of the world through that lens, and that perspective may not be perceiving things the most positively, the most abundantly, or to its full context. But because you have this blinder on, you're only going to see like what you're picking and choosing, what your brain is picking and choosing. It's like a filter. And so you could be filtering out the good things and what you want to attract. So that's why you have to do the work. You have to recognize, what are my biases, to make sure that you're not blocking your blessings and your abundance. In relation to this, there's this Will Smith quote that I found while I was scrolling on Pinterest. And it is, there's a certain delusional quality that all successful people have to have. You have to believe that something different can happen. And so what I'm focusing on right now is believing that I'm literally about to step into my dream life. You have to believe it. Like, you can't just tell yourself, like, oh, I'm putting this on my vision board and like, I hope it comes true. No, I know that God is going to give me what's best for me. I know that God's putting this vision of success, whatever success means to me, in my mind, because it is mine later on in my timeline. And right now, God is just preparing me and getting me closer to alignment to then align with that timeline. So right now, my identity might not fit that reality, but that's why we're going through changes, we're shifting, we're feeling the discomfort of that change because we're shifting to align with that best version and that ideal self, that ideal life. And another quote that we can build off on is that your mind is programmable. If you're not programming it, then someone else will. Whether it be what society wants you to believe, whether it be society boxing you in to believe that there's only X, Y, and Z paths that you can take in your life. And maybe those paths don't hold your vision. And so you feel like, am I really going to get there if society is telling me that it's not possible? Or maybe it's your family who is putting this idea in your mind that success looks like this. Success looks like what they want it to be, not what you believe to be success is. And again, back to the social media topic, the TikTok and the Instagram and the scrolling, it is literally programming your brain. Like, literally, it's rewiring your dopamine pathways. So you have to intercept what society, your family, social media, all of that is trying to program in your mind. And you have to feed your mind with what you want to create. And now let's tap back into the detachment conversation, because it's hard to truly grasp detachment. Like, I've spoken about it so many times, and then when I'm actually going through experiences in my life where I need to use that skill of detachment, I'm like, oh, so I'm holding on a little tight right now, and this is not what I believe. So why am I holding on tight to this thing? Yeah, I've really learned that detachment means accepting whatever comes to you, accepting the good and accepting the bad, because all of it was meant for you at the end of the day. And so to me, I feel at peace with this detachment that I have curated. And I think that I've really constructed this skill of detachment from the let them theory. I know I talk about it all the time, guys, but that book is just too good, too good. Mel Robbins ate with that one, okay? The let them theory is just to let them and let me. So whatever happens to me, whatever comes to me in my life, I believe, whether it's negative or positive, that I'm meant to experience that it has a purpose. Because if you are kind of rebuking negative experiences, instead of accepting them as resilience and an opportunity to gain resilience, or an opportunity to gain something such as strength, an opportunity to feel uncomfortable, which is going to help you grow and become a different person. If you rebuke that and you don't view negative things in your life through that lens, then you're not going to attract abundance, because you have this negative perception of what you're experiencing. But if you have a perception and you kind of romanticize your whole life and all of your experiences, no matter what type of emotion they elicit, then you are viewing your life through a lens of abundance, and you're going to attract abundance if that's how you're thinking. If you are perceiving your life through this lens of abundance, this bias of abundance, then that is exactly what's going to come back to you. It's what you're going to attract. It's going to be that full circle moment. And I know, guys, it can be very hard when you are in the middle of the storm of whatever experience it is that you may be going through. It is a lot easier said than done, but you have to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you have to see in that moment how transformative your hardships are. And to see your hardships as a period of transformation and an invite to be uncomfortable for the sake of your growth, then you are seeing your life through such an abundant lens. There's another quote that I think is really applicable to this, and it is, pressure is a privilege. Pressure is a sign that you've earned a place where expectations are high and the opportunity to rise to the challenge is within reach. So you are given the opportunity to take on a challenge when you are put through hardships. When God puts you through hardships, it's because he's trying to build you, whether it's building your patience, your strength, your resilience, your capacity for stress. And these are all things that your future self will need to be equipped with, because imagine you, just an example. For me, I'll give you an example that I kind of think of. In 10 years, I'm a CEO, I run a multi-million-dollar business, and all of a sudden something's going on in my company and I'm in a very stressful situation. And because I didn't go through stressful situations, I didn't learn how to cope and adapt with stress in the past 10 years, I am not equipped with the tools to handle this problem. And I'm not able to get through in that period of my life. That's why before reaching that level, that status, that level of success, I need to go through all of these things to build those tools so that I'm equipped for the future. And then in the future, it will feel like a breeze. I'm telling you guys, just view life. I'm giving you the glasses, okay? I'm giving you the abundance bias glasses so that you can see your life to its full potential and attract so much more. Because I want you guys to feel what I'm feeling. My heart is so full. I'm literally gonna cry right now. My heart is just so full. I'm gonna cry. And like, plus, when you're abundant and grateful, like God softens your heart. And that's why I feel so emotional talking about this right now, because it's so transformative. Like, oh my God, I don't want to actually cry, guys. But like 1 year ago, I was in such a different place. Even just at the beginning of the year in January of 2026, January 1st, I spent the day bawling my eyes out because I was going through something that I felt was, I was just going through a hardship. And now, 8 months later, I have experienced so much. I've experienced so much. Yeah, I have just, in these past 8 months, compared to last summer when I was going through so much anxiety and stress, and I even felt like such a deep wave of depression after going through some hardships. And then in January, when I felt like things were, again, some hardships were coming up. And now, this year in 2026, I have experienced so many things that I'm so grateful for. So many experiences that I did pray for. They're just becoming my reality. And on top of those experiences that I have been blessed with and attracted into my life, I've also God has given me an excitement because I feel clarity and I feel alignment and I feel like my true self and I feel like my inner child is just being healed, and I feel like I see so clearly that my ideal life, like this journey I'm on, is really starting to align with where I really want to be. And so it makes me emotional because there was times when I was just fighting every day, telling myself, like picturing the light at the end of the tunnel and telling myself that it's okay, Zara, comforting myself in just extreme discomfort, comforting myself, trying to soothe myself, trying to heal my nervous system and ease my anxiety, and convincing myself, having the most trust in God that I could, to convince myself that life was going to get better. And because I did that in those rough times, alhamdulillah, life got better. And so I just want everyone else to experience this like shocking realization of alignment. I want other people to feel this alignment that I'm feeling right now, and this excitement on their journey of becoming who they want to become. I'm so excited, and I want you to have a piece of this excitement for your life. I really, really, really pray that this conversation was beneficial for you. I love you guys, and we'll chat soon. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.